Hello, this is the trade site Forex market preview and international economic data roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, January 22nd, 2017, ending Friday the 27th. Hope you had a good trading week. Here's a look at the dollar index daily chart. It's a slow drift lower, stayed in a 1 point range or so for the week. Nothing so too exciting. Making our way back towards that red static trend line that's currently in play. We're stuck between the red and the green for now. Not much to talk about there. Here's a look at the euro dollar chart. Hasn't really done anything. It's usually just the inverse lately of the dollar, and that's pretty much what it is still. Pound dollar. Look how flat this has been. I mean, we had the Brexit vote back in June. That tanked it. Took another hit in October. Coming back a little bit this last week for 1 day on some comments. Positive, well, at least some intra-country comments trying to talk up the pound. But if you look at it, really, that's a pretty narrow range now since October. Australian dollar against the dollar. This thing's been in a narrow range, 600 pips for 8 months. Pound yen, fairly flat week, a little bit of a bounce when the pound bounced on Monday, Tuesday. Here's an interesting one. Here's the euro yen, 11 candles up towards our seeker exhaustion signal. So one way to phrase this would be 2 days up and we'll get a 13 exhaustion signal, which means a downside move probably coming on the euro yen. And we'll look at the New Zealand dollar, which again hasn't done much for the last year. Not much to talk about there. Let's look at the intra-week action on at least the euro dollar and the pound dollar. Uh, so yeah, 140 pips of range on the euro for the whole week. This is why a couple of the nights it was just horrible. Um, just not great activity for the whole week. Pound dollar, a little bit better, obviously, with the big move, and we did make great money there. We had a 300 pip winner this week. Can't complain about that. But the other nights were pretty flat. So it was really just came down that 1 week, unfortunately, or that 1 day. Fortunately, we had a trade in the pound going that night, so that helped us out immensely for the week and for the month. Let's look at the data coming out this week and get a roadmap. We're past options expiration for uh, January now, and past the inauguration. You're now in the official beginning of the Trump era, and we will see what that means for the markets going forward. I'm 100% sure nobody actually knows. Sunday, we've got the Japanese all industry activity report. Monday, not much. German BUBA monthly report. Canada wholesale sales. China CV leading index. Consumer confidence out of Europe. Flash manufacturing PMI out of Japan. Now you're on to Tuesday. We got the French, German, and broad European flash manufacturing and services PMI data. UK's public sector net borrowing. The EU membership court ruling on Brexit. That could be interesting, by the way, if that goes away. It wasn't expected. Flash manufacturing PMI out of the U.S. Existing home sales at 10 a.m. here in the U.S. Richmond manufacturing index in the U.S. Then you jump a little bit to the Australia MI leading index in the evening here in the U.S. Japan's trade balance number. Australia's CPI. Credit card spending in New Zealand. Probably not going to rock the world there. UBS consumption indicator out of Switzerland. German IFO business climate and 30-year bond auction, CBI industrial order expectations out of the UK, Belgian business climate out of Europe, HPI out of the US, crude oil inventories out of the US. Got Australia going on a bank holiday for Thursday, the CPI out of New Zealand on Thursday, going into Wednesday night here in the US, going into Thursday there. SPPI out of Japan, and then we jump to Thursday here. Trade balance out of Switzerland, Spanish unemployment, German consumer climate, preliminary GDP out of the UK, index of services out of the UK, Italian retail sales out of Europe, Italian 10-year bond auction out of Europe, CV realized sales out of the UK, and then here in the US we've got the trade balance number, which is one of our big three, so we'll be half size ahead of that. Unemployment claims, that's the weekly number, preliminary wholesale inventories, flash services PMI, new home sales, CV leading index, and natty gas. So it's a big day on Thursday for data. Japan that night goes to their CPI, both their national number and the Tokyo number. China goes on bank holiday to wrap up the week. We've got import prices and PPI out of Australia. Europe, M3 money supply and private loans. And then we end the week. This is a big one. This is the first look at advanced GDP for the fourth quarter. So Obama's last quarter of just gross domestic product, essentially. Although for sure most of the budget stuff remains for another quarter or two before new stuff comes into play. Be interesting to see what that looks like. Core durable goods orders, But that big one, that's what we're going to be half size ahead of the GDP number on Friday, and then revised University of Michigan sentiment as we go to wrap up January. The following Tuesday is the last day of January. So trade balance and the GDP number in particular, are the big ones. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal 12. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. Have a great trading week.